The Steam Deck had a really fun week, and I can't wait to tell you all about it in today's Deck News Roundup, so let's get into it. What's good, Deck Gang? Thanks for all the subs on last week's video. You all helped make my daughter incredibly happy. She's a proper gamer, by the way. She's been playing Bowser's Fury and was scared to play when Kaiju Bowser came on screen, but I walked her through what to do and she says she's brave now. She also recently started playing Stray on the Steam Deck, no less. So clearly my wife and I are doing all the right things. Anyway, as we get started, be sure to hit the like button to help this video spread to more people and subscribe for more Steam Deck goodness. Let's start with that story from Friday, which is that Valve has been able to dramatically increase production. Here's how they worded it. Quote, "Many of the supply chain shortfalls that affect Steam Deck are gradually clearing up, and we're continuing to ramp production so we're able to produce more decks faster than ever before." End quote. One thing I didn't talk about in that video that covered this on Friday is that the aforementioned supply chain shortfalls aren't the only story here. Valve are choosing to get through their entire existing demand within the next 5 months. And while 5 months is a long time to wait for people that have already been waiting for months and months, my point here is that the throughput is going to be orders of magnitude faster than the pace that we've been going at so far. I haven't done the math on this yet, but let me show y'all something. We were able to reserve Steam Decks for the first time starting on July 16th of last year, 2021. Famously, it's taken Valve a long time to get past the hump of fulfilling orders from the first day of reservations. They are now past that milestone, but are still fulfilling orders from between July 18th to August 2nd. So depending on what queue you're looking at, they're still fulfilling orders for people that reserve between day 2 and day 17. The first 17 days of orders have not been completely fulfilled yet. And so how long has it taken them to get that far? Well, you might recall that the first batch of emails for ordering Steam Decks went out on February 25th of this year. That was about 155 days ago. That means that so far, it's taken Valve 155 days to fulfill orders for the first 17 days of reservations. Now, guess how many days are left in 2022? That's right, 155 days. So they're gonna use the remaining 155 days to process the remaining 362 to 377 days of reservations. So in the same time it took them to process 2.5 weeks worth of Steam Deck interest, they're now going to process a full year's worth. This is what I'm talking about when I say they are increasing the throughput by an order of magnitude. And the reason I bring this up is because it spells something bigger than the current crop of reservations. In order for Valve to be able to put in orders this large with their suppliers, they have to be confident that they'll be able to sustain this increased throughput in 2023, meaning they think demand will still be high in 2023 after everyone's current reservations have been fulfilled. That's why I think opening up orders to more countries and more regions is the logical next step for Valve. Hopefully they're able to look towards Japan and Australia, as they have sort of promised that in the past, and hopefully the demand for Steam Deck continues to grow. As an aside, I did see a lot of confusion coming from Valve's statement. Many of you in my comments complained that you got delayed as part of the announcement. Well, Lawrence Yang took to Twitter to clarify that no one got delayed last week. Here is exactly what he said, quote, "We've seen some confusion from customers about this. No one's reservation was delayed. Either folks got the good news that their reservation will be available earlier than originally estimated, or they got clarity that their reservation will be available by end of year." End quote. I think the source of this confusion was the vagueness of the original after Q3 bucket. A lot of people saw that and interpreted it in several different ways. Some people thought that they got moved from Q3 to Q4. Others thought they had an October ETA and were disappointed to see that they now had an October to December ETA. If this is you, please know that you were not delayed. What most likely happened is that your ETA was vague after Q3. After Q3 meant that you could get it as early as October 2022, but there was no defined end date. So for all we knew, it was October to late 2023 and beyond. Now we know that the end date is December. So as Lawrence said, you either got good news that you were moved up into Q3, or you got clarity that you were specifically in Q4. Hopefully this clarification helps. Now, you know what I spent most of my time playing last week? Multiverse is fire! I'm sure you haven't heard of it. I'm known for my deep cuts after all, but seriously, this game, damn, it's good. I played quite a bit of it last week and I love the focus on 2v2 gameplay. I think that's where the longevity in this game is going to lie. As it stands, it doesn't feel like there's a ton of depth to the individual movesets, so I can't compare the depth of a single character in Multiverse to a single character in Smash, much less Tekken. There's just a lot more variety in those titles. Still, there's a lot of variety from character to character here, and you'll have to think more about team synergies than you would in basically any other fighter. All that said, I'm still a noob and the game is still just in the first few days of play, so there may be even more depth to 1v1 than I'm giving it credit for. For example, this bait that I saw on Twitter was phenomenal. In any case, I also love the presentation. Each character is impressive and done faithfully. I love the way they recreated some of LeBron's iconic moments, for example. LeBron has become my favorite character, by the way. I have no idea how good he is relative to the rest of the cast, but I really like his moveset expanding based on whether or not he has a ball or how the ball can be used with your teammate. I'm also encouraged that they embraced Steam Deck and Linux from the outset. I hope that we'll see more of that from hugely popular games that are still holding out on Linux support. Overall, this game has impressed me a ton, but we do have to talk about the elephant in the room. So, back in my more naive days, I used to wish that fighting games would go free to play. I thought that would attract a much larger audience, which would benefit the game as a whole. Since then, I've grown a lot more critical of free-to-play mechanics, and because of that, I felt equal parts vindicated and discouraged when I found that Multiverse became the most concurrently played fighting game in history as far as I know. Multiverse has been peaking at 150,000 players on Steam regularly, like every single day since launch, which is just astonishing. And that's not counting consoles where there must be even more players. As far as we know, nothing has beaten that record or even come close, with the exception of perhaps Smash Bros. Ultimate, but unfortunately we don't have data for that. Anyway, I partly felt vindicated because being free to play was absolutely part of the formula for success here. Not only that, but they did all the free to play stuff exactly like I would have liked back then. You can pay $40 up front to be able to unlock 15 characters, or $60 up front to get 20, or $100 up front to get 30. In my head, I can justify $60 for 20 characters as the base game and an additional $40 for a DLC with 10 characters. And if you want to pay nothing, yeah, of course, you can grind it out for unlocks and the first few would be pretty easy, not to mention there are character rotations. Also, you can play any character in the lab, which is really nice and a step above games like Street Fighter V, where you have to buy a character just to be able to play them in training. That's a huge handicap for serious play. On the other hand, I'm partly discouraged because this could potentially be viewed as the only path forward to success. Alternate costumes in Multiverse cost as much as $20, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that number go up. It's prohibitively expensive to buy everything, and they're pricing cosmetics to make as much money as possible off of whales rather than to allow the average enthusiast to have reasonable prices. So while I'm still in my honeymoon phase with this game, and I think it deserves the accolades it's getting, I'm worried about what this could mean for its own future, as well as for the future of fighters, be they 2D, 3D, or platform fighters as a whole. By the way, are you playing Multiverse? If not, let me know in the comments why not, and if so, let me know who you're maining. Okay, let's talk about some announcements and rumors. First up is some news about The Last of Us remake on PC. Last week I reported on the features trailer for PS5. By the way, with all the talk about the $70 price tag, I left out the fact that we don't know if it's actually going to come to PC at $70. There are some games on Steam that are $70, but that does seem to remain a rarity at this point. On that note, it's entirely possible that this game debuts at a lower, more palatable price tag when it does eventually come to PC, which is in fact the subject I want to discuss here. Over on Twitter, a user named Charble said that they were hyped for the trailer and can't wait to see it come to PC. The Naughty Dog developer he was replying to said that the PC version is coming later than the PS5 version, but will be, quote, very soon after. Up until this point, the release date has remained unclear, and while we still don't have a solid date, it's good to hear that it will be coming very soon after. Also on Sony news, there's an update on Returnal to PC. I previously reported Returnal showing up on SteamDB, and there have been more developments since then. As was recently noted by user Mocha Joe on Resetera forums, there have been a lot of updates to Oregon on Steam indicating that an announcement may be coming soon. Even since that initial post, there have been a lot more updates. We're now up to 34 updates in the last 7 days, including one that pretty clearly points to Steam Deck support. That's all very exciting, and I'm looking forward to this PS5 only game coming to Steam Deck. Speaking of which, there are some folks wondering how this PS5 only game that clearly needs PS5 SSD speeds to function could possibly come to the PC. Well, that's the lesson for today, folks. It's just marketing. Always was. Also, early on in this week, it was reported by Jeff Grubb that Black Panther was being worked on. This was fresh off the trailer for Wakanda Forever, and a lot of people were turned off by the fact that this is reportedly being headed up by EA. I made a video a few months back about how I've been impressed with EA ever since I gave EA Play a shot. They have a lot of really good games, and I think we're not giving them enough credit. They've got Jedi Fallen Order, Squadrons, Apex Legends, Knockout City, Grid Legends, It Takes Two, and Unravel. They've also got Mass Effect, Mirror's Edge, and Titanfall kind of waiting in the wings. Hopefully they do something with those. In any case, I think EA's track record has been fairly solid these last few years. Add to that the fact that the studio working on this is made up of folks that previously were part of Monolith Productions, and I am cautiously optimistic about this title. I hope we hear more soon. One story that was making waves last week was the price increase of MetaQuest 2. Back in 2020 and 2021, I was worried that we might see price increases on console hardware with all of the supply chain constraints, but I thought that we were well past that given the way that things have been trending. It's strange then to see the MSRP on MetaQuest 2 increase, and I wonder if it will give ideas to other manufacturers who may be looking for a reason to hike prices. I'd be extremely disappointed to see a Steam Deck price increase, for example. That said, Valve seems clearly more worried about getting the Steam Deck into more people's hands, which is absolutely what I want to see. And a couple more rumors here. Tactics Ogre continues to show its beautiful face, this time with a release date that should be taken with a grain of salt, mind you. It showed up on psdeals.net, which I believe scrapes the PlayStation Store APIs. The description for the game advertises fully voiced cutscenes, revamped AI, a complete overhaul to the UI and controls, and numerous playability improvements including autosaves. The release date is listed as November 11th, and this one is almost certainly coming to Steam as well, and likely around the same time as the PlayStation release. That's good. I think it'll be very welcome on the Vita too, the Steam Deck. Finally, for rumored games, there are more updates to Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. Interestingly, these updates all started up around the same time that Crash 4 got announced as a PS Plus bonus. Then we take a look at this month's PS Plus bonuses, and wouldn't you know it, another Activision title, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, is on the menu. My good friend Tetsuo, shout out to them, believes that this is an indication that Activision is trying to cash out on these games while they can. They get a fat check from Sony for PS Plus, and they bring the game to Steam for additional sales. That theory seems reasonable to me, and I do hope to see this Tony Hawk game on Steam, as I think it'll lead to a better chance that it'll run well on the Steam Deck. I'd absolutely welcome that because it remains one of a handful of games on my final hit list for Steam Deck compatibility. Speaking of Tony Hawk, how cool is this story? A video game and entertainment lawyer named Isabel shared on Twitter that she went to see a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater cover band by the name of the 900, which, by the way, that alone sounds like an awesome freaking night. I'd love to go to a small bar and hear a band cover my favorite Tony Hawk jams. That is amazing. Put that on my bucket list. But then, Mr. 900 himself, Tony Hawk, shows up and performs with the band. Can you imagine? I would lose it. What a feel-good story. So there was a pretty chunky set of Steam Deck updates that came to the beta channel last week. The big new feature for me are the guides and the overlay. The Steam community does an awesome job with adding guides to Steam games, and I think a lot of newcomers on the deck are not aware of this, so they should really check it out. Here's a look at my game of the year so far, for example, Neon White. Neon White is basically a speed-running first-person shooter with a really cool dating sim mechanics in between chapters. Anyway, you can get a bronze, silver, gold, or ace medal in each level. Getting an ace medal feels great, but if you're really good at these sort of games, you'll start to see that there's a lot of room for optimization beyond just getting the ace medal. Keep at it enough and you might beat one of the completely hidden dev times and get a red dev medal. There's no indication that these exist, and worse, you can never see the times for these medals in the game. Well, now you can just go into the Steam overlay by pressing the Steam button, go to guides, and click one of the 2 red medal guides. Now you can see the times for each level without ever having to open a browser. I think that's awesome. Also, Firefox is now by default a Flatpak, so you'll have to install that the first time you use it on the Steam Deck. This solves the issue of having an outdated browser with numerous vulnerabilities that was first reported by Gaming on Linux about a month ago. And here's the new VGUI desktop theme that looks like the old school Steam. I definitely have nostalgia for this look, but I absolutely still hate it and would never daily drive it. Also, the Xbox Authenticator login has been fixed for Forza and Halo Infinite, which is huge. Next up, in the world of Steam Deck software, the fan-made remake of Metroid 2 AM2R is now a Flatpak. That means it's available on the Discover Store over on the desktop side of the Steam Deck. This is pretty awesome. I really enjoyed this game, perhaps more than Nintendo's own remake with Samus Returns, so I'm excited to try it again on the Steam Deck. Especially because I played it when it was first released, and now there is support for a mod called Multidroid, which is some sort of 16-player multiplayer version of the game. I actually don't know how this works, but I'm curious to try, so let's see how this goes. By the way, I'm glad to see that after Nintendo tried to kill this project with the cease and desist early on, that not only is this game still available, but now it's conveniently available on the best handheld on earth. Sorry, not sorry. Lastly, for software updates, EmuDeck hasn't seen a release on the main channel in over a month, but they have been working hard on some big updates in the background in their beta and alpha channels, including support for the big PCSX2 update that was finally made available to Linux users about a month ago. Don't worry, I'm checking out these updates and we'll have a video covering all the new features when that release is ready for general availability. And before the community spotlight, let's talk about some games. As I mentioned earlier, last week saw the release of Multiverses, which is awesome, but then another big release was Digimon Survive. This JRPG from Bandai Namco made it to number 3 in the top sellers list and appears to be getting solid reviews, sitting at a mostly positive 79% on Steam. This game is a rich visual novel with some tactics elements. I won't be checking it out, but it seems cool for those that are into the IP. Also, Tarnishing of Juxtia was released on Steam on Tuesday of last week. I was looking forward to this, but I gotta say, I wasn't too impressed with this 2D Souls-like platformer. I think there are good bones here and the production levels are good, but I just wasn't pulled in by the combat. There was one short Steam review that resonated with me. They said that the combat in this game feels like it's turn-based. If you press an attack button, you can't do anything until the attack animation ends. It's heavy and it's clunky. Mind you, I understand that sometimes in combat you have to commit, but there was just no fluidity or variety to the combat in this game, so unfortunately it's a no for me. As we look forward, August is stacked with good games like Spider-Man, Rollerdrome, Blossom Tales 2, Midnight Fight Express, Curse to Golf, and more. But let's look at what's coming out this week. Top of the list for me is Turbo Golf Racing. I absolutely adored Rocket League, and if this can do for golf what that game did for soccer, I'm here for it. I can't wait to see it in action. South of the Circle is an emotional love story that finds you navigating the past decisions that have put your protagonist in his current predicament. I'm digging the art style of this, and it's made by some all-star devs, so I've no doubt that this will deliver. Next is Hard West 2, which is a tactics game set in the Old West. Its predecessor has mixed reviews, so here's hoping that the dev team learned from that and is able to make something even better. Gigabash is a party fighter inspired by the likes of Power Stone, War of the Monsters, and Smash Bros, and even has online play. Those are big shoes to fill, and if I'm being honest, I am extremely skeptical, but I do want it to be good. Finally, Frogun looks pretty neat. It looks like a PSX era 3D platformer. In fact, the graphics and art style give me a bit of a Mega Man Legends feel. Once again, I want it to be good, so hopefully it does deliver. And finally, it's time for the community spotlight. For today's spotlight, I want to cover the theme loader for the Steam Deck because it now has a Steam store. I did uninstall Plugin Loader a few weeks back and I haven't used it since, but I'm going to reinstall it now so that I can try the latest theme loader out. The store looks awesome. I was checking out this video made by Blaster PR on Reddit, and as you can see, he can make a whole new interface, which is amazing. Some of the themes on here are from a user named Hudman2002, and they include the ability to center the home row or round the edges where possible. So yeah, I'm going to play around with these. Anyway, that's it for this week. Let me know what you think about today's topics. How do you feel about multiverses? Are you looking forward to The Last of Us or Returnal? How about Tony Hawk? That was awesome. And what games caught your eye this week? If you liked this video, like the video. If you want more, be sure to subscribe. And if you're interested in helping out some more, maybe join some awesome folks like Dakota and Friendy on my Patreon. Alright, that gang out. Goodbye!